G'day, I'm Russ from HoggyStyle BBQ, and today I'm going to be showing you how to cook pork ribs. Firstly, we're going to set up our smoker and light our charcoal. Today, I'm using Firebrand Professional Lamp in the Minion method in my Pro Q. I've got a single Firebrand fire lighter under the chimney, which is all you need to get this charcoal going. The Minion method is where you place lit charcoal in the center of unlit charcoal for it to burn outwards. This will create a slow and steady temperature and a nice long burn. Temperature can be regulated in this style of smoker by using the bottom vents or adding more water into the water pan. After about 5 minutes, your charcoal should be roaring hot. If you're not getting an even light, give it a quick shake around. Give it a few more minutes to get nice and white hot before finally pouring it into the charcoal basket as close to the middle as possible. Use a pair of long-handled tongs to get it nice and even, and if you've gone a bit heavy-handed like me, no problems, just build it up more in the middle. Place your fruit wood on top of the lit charcoal. Today, we're using cherry wood. I love cherry wood for most meats. It's not too strong a flavour and imparts a nice, beautiful aroma on the meat whilst it's cooking. Finally, place the rest of the smoker on top. It can be a bit of a game of Tetris to get it all stacked up properly, but keep at it. And if you're using one of these smokers, don't forget to make sure the latches are positioned properly before trying to place the rest of the smoker on top. Make sure you use the tongs for this too, as they'll be super hot from the charcoal already. Whilst the smoker is getting to your desired temperature, mine's between 275 and 300 Fahrenheit, it's the perfect time to prep your ribs. These loin back pork ribs are from our local Costco and have a ton of meat on them. They also have a large fat seam that won't eat amazingly well if you leave it on. It may look like you're removing a lot of meaty goodness from these, but the loin meat that sits on top of that fat seam doesn't end up as nice as the rest of the rib meat, so I just get rid of it. For the membrane, grab a paper towel, kitchen wipe, or any sort of kitchen towel that you have handy. These can be a bit tricky to get off, and the cloth wipe I have here makes it a lot easier if the membrane is being difficult. Grab from the edge of the ribs that doesn't have any underside meat on it, and just give it a bit of pull until you feel the skin-like membrane pull away. It may tear, and you may need to use a knife for assistance here. This will make the world of difference when eating your pork ribs, so I do highly recommend you remove it. With the membrane removed, clean up any of the meat that's on the underside of the ribs, and tidy up the top. You might find your ribs haven't been split perfectly, and some extra rib tips are in there. I prefer to remove them, but it's not necessary. Once you're happy with the trim, it's time to apply your rub. Today, I'm using the new rub from Lane's, called Magic Dust. This has a beautiful sweet flavour with a small peppery kick at the end. It's perfect for pork. Apply liberally. Now that your pork is ready and your smoker is up to temperature, it's time to place the meat on. Notice the thin blue smoke coming from the top vent. This will indicate a clean burn, which will give us that beautiful smoky flavour we're looking for. If it's thick and white, your meat may take on a bitter flavour. Place your meat on the smoker so the lid will still close properly. This may take a little bit of rearranging if you're using a smaller smoker. You may have heard of the 3-2-1 method to cook ribs. This is a process really designed for bigger American ribs, and time guidelines will probably not suit our smaller cuts. The theory behind the process is that you cook in 3 stages. Firstly, cooking until you're happy with the bark, which is the outside texture of the meat. The bark should show a nice deep colour and not easily scrape off if you touch it. Then, wrapping the ribs and some other delicious treats tightly in foil. This is known as the Texas Crutch. Wrapping your meat will help speed up the cooking process, and with the addition of other flavours, it will add some more complexity and some tenderness to the end result. The final stage is unwrapping and adding your sauce. You should place your sauce on your ribs and let it cook down to a point where the sauce gets nice and sticky, but we'll talk more about that shortly. I'm happy with the bark, so we're going to take off our ribs and begin the wrapping process. Firstly, we lay down 3 slices of butter. Butter makes everything better, and ribs are no exception to this rule. You don't need to use heaps, so just slice a little bit off the end of your stick and experiment. After the butter, we sprinkle on some sugar. Traditionally, we use brown sugar here, but I use coconut sugar because I'm trying to be healthy, you know. Lastly, we'll add some liquid gold. This is blend smoked honey, and I use so much of it that I have to order it in bulk. It's available in jars from many different retailers and online stores, including Firebrand Barbecue. Buy some, you won't regret it. After we've laid our tasty treats down, and you can add anything you want in here, and experimentation is always encouraged, you place the ribs meat side down and wrap them up like a Christmas present. Make sure the foil is nice and tight around the ribs, because if you leave too much space, the ribs will steam and go soggy. Not exactly what we're hoping to achieve. Place the ribs back in the smoker meat side down. They'll probably take about an hour or so, and there's no real easy way to predict just how long they'll take to cook. It really depends on how cooked they were before wrapping and how thick the meat is. Now we're going to prepare our sauce. Bottled sauces are rarely designed to be put straight onto the ribs without a bit of modification. The easiest thing to do is just grab a small saucepan, heat up the sauce, and add some butter until it's melted. This will thin it out, and your ribs will have a nice glaze and sheen to them instead of turning into an overly caramelized brown looking toffee gunk. There. A couple of extra options include adding a pectin based syrup like rib candy or 999 swine glaze. This will give you a better consistency, and you can add some extra herbs, spices, rubs, or combining multiple sauces for more flavour. Today my sauce is butter, Blues Hog Original, Lane's Kinda Sweet, pineapple rib candy, and crushed garlic. Generally speaking, 45 minutes to an hour wrapped up is a good length of time. After this, give them a check, and if the bones have started to pull back and the meat is tender, unwrap them, and it's time to get them back on the smoker, with some sauce. Oh, look at that colour. I just want to take them off and start eating. But I can't, because we need to let the sauce set. This process can take about 15 or so minutes, and because we added the extra tasty treats to the sauce, it won't over caramelize and go nasty. Give it a few more brushes throughout the cook, and when you're happy with how sticky and delicious they look, take them off and get ready for a flavour explosion. Unfortunately, the lighting in my kitchen isn't quite yet up to scratch, so the final product doesn't look as nice on film, but these are a beautiful rich red colour, and the sauce is perfectly sticky like ribs should be. As I'm a competition barbecuer, rib perfection for me is tender and juicy, with the ability to bite through the meat with little to no resistance. If the meat is completely falling off the bone, it generally means they're a bit overcooked, or may have been steamed in the wrap. This can mean you lose a bit of texture whilst eating, but if you like this texture, that's totally fine, it's your cook. Thanks for tuning in, folks. I'm going to go devour these ribs. See you next time.